First question we had was, why did you join the military, and did you have perceptions about it before joining?
So we were both TCU grads, but the University of Texas after that in dental school. So I had family in the military that went all the way back to almost in every war, even back to the Revolutionary War. Grandfathers and uncles had all served. My father had served. So there's kind of a sense of duty, I think, a little bit. And, the other big piece of it probably was we had a young family when we needed money and help through school. So there was also a lot of cool recruiting at the time through Crimson Tide and Top Gun and A Few Good Men and all those cool movies that were pretty inspiring. So that's kind of, led me to going up. Yeah, so, I took a scholarship. There were a couple of scholarships available when I was in dental school, the Navy and the Air Force, and I looked at both of them. And they flew people out that were in the head of the dental corps out to just meet me, and we did interviews. And I just became attached to the Navy and felt like that was the way to go. So when I graduated dental school, I really wanted to do what's called a general practice residency, and that there weren't a whole lot of people that were selected for it, but we did one of those and got picked to go to San Diego, and we did our first year there. After you did the first tour, you had to sign up for what's called an operational tour, which you can either go on a ship or you can go overseas. So I thought, well, with two young children, probably wouldn't be good for me to go on a ship, so we'll volunteer to go overseas. So we went overseas, and as soon as we got overseas, they assigned me to a ship with the Marines. But I did really well. I was attached to a Marine Expeditionary Unit. That was a lot of fun for me, and I felt a lot of sense of duty when I was doing that. During that time, I was applying to an orthodontic specialty, and I was picked. There was only one in the Navy picked that one year, and I was supposed to go to training, civilian training, and they sent me to Indiana University. And so I was promoted to lieutenant commander, which was my first promotion when I was in the Navy, and did my residency there. We had 5 kids in Indiana, I think, or 4.
The fifth one was
We had our 5th there while I was doing my master's thesis. So we spent time in Okinawa. We were in Indiana, and then when I got orders again, the only orders that came up were in Okinawa. So we went back a second time for another 3-year tour
as an orthodontist.
And so I went back and went really well. I finished my kind of time up and got out. Was 2 years in the reserves. Decided to get back in and had a kind of a change in the service. The Navy had filled my spot. They were overmanned, so I went into the Air Force. Second time, got picked up for lieutenant colonel. We came to Langley, Virginia, and we were there for 10 years. I was in charge of the clinic for about 6 years, and we're a big clinic. We had 100 personnel, 26 dentists, the rest hygienists. And then the last 2 years there, I was commander of the clinic. So and that's when I made colonel, and I got my boards, and so that's kind of how my promotion progressed over 23 years, and just retired last summer.
So a long career, got to go a lot of cool places. What would you say was your favorite duty station or place that you got to go?
I think mine was San Diego. Even though it was a short year, I think that was definitely my favorite place. The weather was beautiful all the time.
Yeah, that was probably the most beautiful place and beautiful weather.
But he worked a lot.
We were only there for a year.
Always working. So.
I was always working, and she was enjoying the nice sunshine.
Having a good old time.
Every day. We would go to the park and have lunch with our little play groups pretty much 4 or 5 days a week.
Wow.
Okinawa was pretty cool, too. We did a lot of neat stuff there, traveled a lot while we were there, and just the experiences there were a lot different, a lot of fun.
It was just too far from home.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get into next with. What would you say was the hardest part of transitioning into the military?
It was definitely leaving family behind. We both have big families, so we were the first ones to leave. Didn't stay around with everybody else.
So all of our families was in Fort Worth for generations, and so we hadn't been out a whole lot. We'd been traveling a little bit, but once we left, we went to Japan. Well, we had like no one other than ourselves, and so it was a foreign country and something new. And it was before computers, before you could communicate very easily.
Yeah.
You were really separated from everyone, and that was pretty tough.
So you touched on this a little bit. How is living abroad different than living in the States?
For sure, the different cultures, the different food, the people. I mean, especially when we went the first time, I know for me, I was like very standoffish. I didn't want to indulge in anything like Japan. Like, oh, I don't know anything about that. I don't want to do it. We lived on base. We went right on base the first time, and so you're still kind of in your little bubble. You don't have to venture out if you don't want to. You have to learn money, so that's like something you have to go exchange your money. Then it's just kind of weird learning how to use the money over there, make sure you're doing it right. But then the second time we were over there, we had to live out in town because there was no facilities available for us to move into. So the good thing about that is you're thrust into the community, and you have to learn the different. Yeah. I mean, we had to pay our rent, and the utilities were kind of different. It's cool because you are out in the community, and say we lived in a truly Japanese home on the side of the hill. Your neighbors, obviously, you can't communicate with your neighbors. We lived in like a 3-story house with these crazy balconies on it, and years later we come to find out our children are out there walking on them 3-4 stories high, and the neighbors are trying to tell us, but they can't communicate with us. So
you don't realize you don't realize what all you have in America until you leave there, and when you don't have like a McDonald's, or you don't have any fast food restaurants.
There was a McDonald's, but it was really different. It was very expensive.
That's all.
And then on base, we only had Burger King. So to this day, that's like the last place I would ever eat is Burger King.
We missed all the good things like the barbecue and the Mexican food. We had to learn to do a lot of that ourselves while we were gone. And making the big Thanksgiving dinners, we had to really take on that as a family.
Yeah.
And that was a new challenge, is doing everything on your own.
What would you say are some of your favorite memories of your time in the military?
Definitely all the traveling we were able to do.
Yeah, favorite military stuff was when I was with the Marine Expeditionary Unit, assigned to the ships, and we would go and take our stuff on board the ships, and there's a lot of operations, and it was all pretty serious stuff, and we'd get out underway, and it was real big and awesome. It was a pretty cool sight to see all that stuff underway. You really felt like you're part of something bigger, and I still remember that. It's probably the best part of the whole 23 years.
Wow.
Really?
And the things we did as a family were a lot of fun too. All the traveling, going up Mount Fuji and renting a little motorhome, and driving to the various castles on mainland Japan, and all the travel that we did back and forth. Yeah. So it's pretty hard to get. I had to work on mainland Japan, and I was an orthodontist, so I had to travel. They didn't have an orthodontist in mainland Japan. It was a Marine base, so I got to travel there once a month. It was a lot of fun. But I had to, fly in a plane, and I had to get on a bus and take a bus to a subway station. And, there's nothing in English. It's all in kanji, and I didn't know how to read kanji. So I had to memorize what these things look like with the various stops. And so it's really hard to get to the base. We had to use all modes of transportation. But in the military, it's pretty cool because they have this thing called space available travel. So you can get on a plane if there's seats, and there's not always seats, but if there's enough seats, you can get on it and travel. And so your mom likes to travel, and so she would get on these planes and come and visit me. So she tried numerous times to visit. So this plane she got on was supposed to go to Iwakuni. Iwakuni's like way down here in the south. And so when she's on the plane, the pilot and the crew said, actually, we're not going to Iwakuni, we're going to Atsugi, which is in northern Japan, which is like 500 miles apart. And so she's like, what?
Well, we get to the base, and they're like, okay, well, I said, I was supposed to go to Iwakuni, and they said, well, we're not going to Iwakuni. All you have to do is just go outside the base, get a ticket for a subway, get on the subway, and go to Iwakuni. And I was like,
the bullet train.
The bullet train. Yeah, I was like, yeah, no. I think we had 3 or 4 kids, all little.
So the pilot of this plane, after she got to talking to him, He was actually a Marine, and he was stationed in New County, and his daughter had an appointment with him. He's like, "Oh, your dad's the orthodontist? All right, come on, look." And so they flew her to.
So they went ahead
Oh
and
my
flew us to
goodness.
anyway.
Yeah, she got a person right.
After I was like all upset that I couldn't figure out how this, I was calling your dad, and I was like very upset. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. You're gonna have to come down here and get us because I can't do this by myself. But it all worked out. We did Hawaii. I did several times. I tried to get to Texas from Okinawa, and I flew to.
We were trying to get home from Japan. We had like a big family, and it cost like thousands of dollars per person to fly home, and so we couldn't fly home. So we had to try these military planes, and we knew through research. I knew that a plane flew once a month from Japan through Hawaii to Fort Worth. So my big plan was if I can get to Hawaii at this time of the month, I can catch this plane and we can get back home. And so I had it all planned out. So we went there, and I kept asking these guys at the terminal, like, "Where's this plane?" They said, "We don't know about a plane like that." I'm like, "You got to be kidding. It comes through here every time at this day. We don't know anything about it." So we were up like 3 days watching for this plane, literally every night. We were sleeping in the airport. Finally, they come and wake us up, like, "The plane's here. You got to be there in like 5 minutes." So we're like so excited. And they're like, "Okay, there's 3 seats on it though, and there's like 5 of us." I'm like, "You got to be kidding me." So, all right, we'll split up. I'll take half the kids, and you stay back, and you get a commercial plane, and you can meet us there. So we get on the plane, and we taxi out to the plane. It's a big commercial plane with reserves on there. There's like 100 seats. There's like 20 people on the plane. We're out on the tarmac. Like, wait a minute, you just split us up? You've got all these seats, and my wife's with their kid back there. So they shut down the plane on the terminal, sent somebody back to the terminal to get her, and they brought her out in the Jeep, loaded up on the plane, and kind of flew it. It was pretty cool. Your mom was like in the phone booth.
I was in the phone booth, like calling home, trying to figure out what in the world I was going to do. I mean, because you didn't have a phone. You couldn't just pick up your phone and get on your American app and try to find a flight.
Yeah.
I mean, just not that easy. You didn't have any numbers. You know, you'd have to call someone else to make the arrangements for you.
She was upset.
Of course I was upset.
So
We made it. We made it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd always wished I had kept like a daily journal, because that was some really crazy times. And when I look back, it all kind of goes together, all the different trips we took, and how crazy each one of them were, because they were all equally crazy.
How was it different with being, family and friends, and how you kind of make it through?
I guess the biggest thing is we were used to having such a large family.
Yeah.
At Christmases, we would have 60 people at a Christmas Eve, and Christmas Eve there is just like us.
Just us.
Yep. And so we had to learn to
start our own traditions.
Establish our own traditions. We'd always had a big Christmas meal. Like, no, we shouldn't cook. So we would go eat Japanese food on Christmas Eve. Like, that was kind of good because it's something we did as a family together. Food. And like we still do it now. On Christmas Eve, we'll go eat Japanese food.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the the community on base when you live there, when you're so far from your family, but you have other people that are in the same situation as you?
Well, those, especially the wives, a lot of the husbands, in our neighborhood there was a lot of pilots, so a lot of the wives pretty much were left alone a lot. And that first time we were there, that you would come and go on the ship, and I had just had my 3rd baby over there, so I had this newborn. You make friends with these other families, and they become your families, because you don't have your family there. So they become your family. You do everything together. You plan meals together. You do day things together, and you just really rely on each other, because that's what you got.
Close-knit family. So I think it brought us closer together.
Yeah, that's true. It brings your immediate family closer together. I mean, like our kids always had someone to play with, because there was, you always have your siblings.
That's why we had 6 of them.
Yeah.
When we came home and actually got to the States, it was more meaningful, I think, and you appreciated it a little bit more.
Yeah, that's true.
Are there any other things you'd add to that, to the challenges of raising kids?
Thinking about extended family, like I felt like we weren't able to make those initial connections. Like when my brothers would have kids, I wasn't there for their activities, and they weren't there for my kids' activities. So I kind of feel like you didn't get to know them when they were young, so you just kind of lose that closeness, that you would have if you were there.
We had grandparents pass away while
Yeah.
we're overseas and not be able to make it to the funerals, and
That's
a lot of things of raising your kids too, because you want reinforcement from your parents and from your aunts and uncles on how you raise someone, and when you don't have them surrounding you, you're all that they have. So I think they miss a little bit of that. Takes a village to raise a family kind of thing.
Yeah.
You don't have that village with you. You just have yourselves.
yeah.
How has the military changed since you joined to when you retired?
It was much larger when I joined. I mean, there were more ships, there were more planes, there was more money, and since there's been such a tightness with the money, that's been cut back. We've cut operations back, but the first things that get cut, unfortunately, are those things that like keep families happy.
Benefits.
All the little, things that you do recreationally on the base, or the little cabins that you can go stay in. They just don't have the money to keep them up. They don't have the money to man them, to keep them open, and so all those little things that are there to support families when they're older by themselves just don't have the money for it. It's real sad to see those programs go.
Yeah.
Because that's really what encourages people to stay in, is that you support them in those ways. So I think losing the money and the monetary support for the military has been kind of a sad thing to see. But you still have people who will do it anyway, which is pretty cool.
Is there anything else you'd like to add? Any other thoughts of things we've talked about?
Yeah.
Go Frogs!
Yeah.
Go